You.
The ruling. An appeals court says Elian Gonzalez cannot apply for political asylum. What's next? When will he go home to Cuba? In depth tonight, my exclusive interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. How will this former KGB spy tackle Russia's staggering problems? What that means for America. And conspiracy theory. What the government is doing to shoot down claims a missile brought down TWA Flight 800.
This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw reporting from Moscow and Brian Williams in New York.
Good evening from Moscow, where tonight I had an exclusive interview with Russia's new president, Vladimir Putin, who this weekend begins a summit meeting with President Clinton. I'll have more on that in depth, but we begin tonight in New York with my colleague, Brian Williams. Brian?
Tom, thanks. Good evening, everyone. A new chapter in a long story written today when a federal court sided with the U.S. government in a ruling that could send 6-year-old Elian Gonzalez back home to Cuba. While his Miami relatives now scramble to take the case to the Supreme Court, others wonder just how much time the boy has left in the U.S. We begin tonight with NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams.
Handing the Miami relatives a severe legal blow, their third courtroom defeat. A federal appeals court rules today that the Justice Department acted within its rights when it said that Elian Gonzalez is too young to apply for asylum against the wishes of his father. A critical legal boost for Juan Miguel Gonzalez, waiting to take his son back to Cuba.
I would like for all this to end and once and for all be able to leave, return home together with my son and all my family.
I hope that all of us, regardless of our disagreements about this case, can join together and wish these people well.
In a unanimous ruling, the three appeals court judges say while they personally might have given Elian an asylum hearing, that's not a decision for the courts. It's one for the Immigration Service. The INS turned the application down, and the judges say they cannot properly conclude that the INS acted arbitrarily or abused its discretion in making that decision. Such a big victory for the boy's father that his lawyer now calls on the Miami relatives to give up their legal claim over Elian.
They say they are concerned about his future, but their love and their concern are best expressed today by calling a halt to this legal battle.
But a lawyer for those Miami relatives says they are considering an appeal.
That is the issue, whether or not there is a constitutional right of an alien such as Elian to seek asylum.
For now, Elian can't go anywhere. A court order remains in effect for at least the next 3 weeks, barring him from leaving the country while the case is in the courts. The most likely next step for the relatives would be asking the full appeals court for a rehearing, but an expert on the federal courts doubts that would work.
I think it's very likely that the three members of that court let their colleagues know how the case was going to be decided, and the full court had some confidence in the result.
An outcome legal scholars say tonight that strongly suggests Elian's 6-month adventure in America is just about over. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
This is Kerry Sanders in Miami, where a small but emotional crowd gathers outside the home where Elian once lived. Today's news broadcast on Spanish-language radio. A disappointment.
This country lost the democracy, lost the liberty, lost everything.
I'm American and American Cuban. I feel real bad for America, man. I didn't think they'll do that to us.
Elian's great-uncle Lázaro González and his cousin Mari Slaces, today uncharacteristically unemotional, saying they respect the court's decision but will not give up the fight.
Creemos en las leyes de los Estados Unidos.
We believe in the laws of the United States.
No hemos concluido.
We haven't concluded.
Vamos a seguir luchando por la libertad de Elian.
We're going to keep fighting for the liberty of Elian.
Que Dios los bendiga a todos.
I will keep my faith, and I think the battle is not over with yet. He's still here. He's still in this great country.
Elian, taken by federal marshals almost 6 weeks ago. Since then, the woman who described herself as the boy's mother figure cut off. She recently tried to contact Elian by phone, but says she was told her calls are unwelcome.
I think that they should allow us to see the boy. They shouldn't be afraid of giving us the opportunity. I think the reason why they don't let us see the boy is because they're scared of the boy's reaction when he sees us, because they know he's going to run to us.
In Havana today, a government warning for Cubans to stay on guard, calling the period that Elian must stay in the United States, quote, a concession to the Miami Mafia. Tonight in Miami, a sense of sadness among some Cuban Americans that this journey with its miracle rescue of a young boy at sea on Thanksgiving Day may soon end where it all began, back in Cuba. Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Miami.
And in Luxembourg, a 30-hour hostage drama at a daycare center is finally over. Tonight, 25 children, 3 teachers held captive have gotten out safely. Police stormed the building after negotiations went nowhere. Sources tell NBC News a sharpshooter using a gun concealed in a TV camera got and shot and critically wounded the hostage taker, who reportedly had a history of mental illness. Still ahead as we continue this Thursday night, 4 years after the tragedy of TWA Flight 800, investigators conduct a dramatic test to try to put the missile theory to rest.
Nothing that was collected and reviewed supported or substantiated a missile theory.
Are they any closer to knowing tonight what really did or did not cause the disaster of TWA Flight 800? And up next, Tom Brokaw's exclusive interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Is he up to the massive job of dealing with his nation's daunting problems? It's In Depth tonight.
I like the likes of you. I like the things you do. I mean, I like the likes of you. I like the likes of you.
Amazing as it may seem, the same bare aspirin you take for muscle pain and backaches can actually help stop someone you love from dying if taken during a heart attack.
Peter?
That's why aspirin is the one pain reliever you should never be without. Talk to your doctor now.
They said you'll be okay.
Bayer, take it for pain, take it for life.
Moscow tonight, NBC News In Depth. Russia's new president, Vladimir Putin. No leader in the world has a greater challenge than Putin. A massive country, an economy in chaos, a bloody war within his borders, a deteriorating nuclear arsenal, and President Clinton coming to see him this weekend. Tonight, my exclusive interview with Putin In Depth. A year ago, Putin was just one more apparatchik, a man who had been a KGB agent, a deputy mayor of St. Petersburg, an advisor to Boris Yeltsin. He grew up as the grandson of Stalin's cook. His parents were typically poor, hardworking Soviets. Putin was best known as a young man for his judo skills, later for his devotion to the KGB, Russia's notorious intelligence agency. When Yeltsin selected him as his successor, the common question, who is Vladimir Putin? When you were in the KGB, you were serving the agency that protected the ideology of communism. Once communism went away, you made a U-turn. Is there an ideology at the heart of Vladimir Putin, or are you ultimately just a pragmatic man?
Если говорить о коммунистической идеологии,
if you mean the communist ideology, we used to live in a different country and in a different world. We were brought up with different ideals. And if we speak about my personal views, I believe the communist idea is a beautiful but harmful fairy tale. It is clear that the state cannot exist on this as a foundation. It is also obvious that there is nothing that can substitute this ideology except democracy.
Mr. President, there's nothing more important than repairing the Russian economy. Westerners who have been involved here in the past say they won't put in any more money until corruption has been solved.
Я не думаю, что в России
There is no doubt we will have to strengthen our laws, law and order, and without any doubt guarantee all the property owners the right of ownership. The state must protect the property owners.
What about Boris Berezovsky, the Russian who's gotten rich through sweetheart deals and political corruption.
Are you saying that Boris Berezovsky and the other members of the families who have so much economic control here will continue to have the economic power that they've enjoyed for a number of years?
I think that you're overestimating if you believe that Boris Berezovsky holds the most part of the Russian economy in his hands. Russia is too big for one man or a handful of people to run it.
Putin continues to defend the bloody war in Chechnya, but there may be a high price.
It is clear to us if we pull out of Chechnya, the territory of Chechnya will become a beachhead for an attack on Russia. Russia cannot afford and will not repeat such an exercise. Therefore, to us, it is better to maintain troops and armed forces, law enforcement forces, and deal with the terrorist problem there before the problem moves to other Russian territories.
What's the greatest threat to Russia? Islamic terrorism coming out of Afghanistan or NATO now expanded?
The biggest threat to Russia is ineffective economic policy. And if one speaks about external threats, I should say that the religious extremism exists in Russia like in other parts of the world.
Putin did make some news. Instead of each country building its own missile defense against a so-called rogue nuclear power, such as North Korea, he suggests a common effort.
Such mechanisms are possible if we pool our efforts and direct them towards neutralizing the threats against the United States, Russia, our allies, or Europe in general. We have such proposals, and we intend to discuss them with President Clinton.
You have two young daughters. What kind of country will they be living in 20 years from now?
I would hate to see my country, Russia, lose its identity, its face. What I would like to see that the cultural roots of Russia, that we're so proud of and we so love, that form us as people, shape us as people, be preserved with all due respect to the common values of our world. I would like to see my children see themselves as Russians.
President Putin's idea of putting some kind of common defensive umbrella over the other nuclear states is obviously a big reach, but the Russians are feeling very vulnerable if the U.S. builds a missile defense system, Star Wars, and Moscow can't match it. When we come back from Moscow, how the U.S. is doing with its Star Wars system.
When making a truck, does more space make a difference? It does to a professional. That's why we gave the GMC Sierra the most front headroom and rear legroom in its class. It's one of the things that makes the difference between a professional-grade truck and all the rest. And only GMC has done it. The GMC Sierra. Above and beyond.
Gross. No matter what you do, you can't get it off, and nothing works. It's a Lion Calcium and Rust Cleaner. Look, I don't even have to wait.
Lime Away, the easy way. Now with improved rust formula.
I want to do everything.
Why so many days-in hotels out there? So no matter where you're headed, you know you'll always get...
Kiss me?
A warm welcome. Days Inn. There you go.
I can eat corn on the cob, and I can eat the apples, as long as I've got super polygrip on these dentures. I know that it works. I mean, it holds my teeth in place. Using the super polygrip, I can continue auctioneering. Bid 35 now, bid 40 now, 5, 45 now.
If you could imagine a bagless vacuum that outcleans all other bagless brands, it would look like this. Introducing the revolutionary Hoover Bagless. Because deep down, you want Hoover.
We need rice. Don't get regular rice. I want whole grain brown rice. Oh, and cereal, but only if it has extra fiber.
Around here, we're particular about what we eat. So we love that Kraft has these Taste of Life dressings. They're made with vitamin E and unsaturated oils like canola.
Bend over. Second shelf.
Guess Kraft just knows eating better doesn't have to be complicated.
Free-range pork.
Around here, the dressing is Kraft Taste of Life.
Tomorrow, the rhythm is
Gonna Getcha with Gloria Estefan live on the Plaza. Brought to you by the Incredible Edible Egg and the Today Show, only on Today.
Gore versus Bush, Decision 2000, only on NBC.
President Clinton is continuing his European tour tonight en route to Moscow. In Berlin, the first post-Cold War visit by an American president to the once divided capital. But nuclear politics dominated his meeting with German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder, who warned Clinton against building a missile defense system that Schroeder said could trigger a new nuclear arms race. And as you heard in my earlier conversation with President Putin here in Russia, Moscow is also strongly opposed to any kind of Star Wars missile defense. NBC News Pentagon correspondent Jim Miklashevsky tonight has more on America's controversial Star Wars plan. Should it go forward? Is it worth it?
3, 2, 1, mark.
An interceptor missile blasts off from the Marshall Islands in the Pacific. A test shot for national missile defense, the latest exchange in a near 20-year battle over Star Wars. But the Pentagon insists this system is not some Cold War relic.
This is not Star Wars. This is not unachievable. And our confidence is increasing.
It's a scaled-down version of Star Wars, no longer designed to protect against all-out nuclear war, but to counter a small-scale missile attack from rogue nations like North Korea, Iran, and Iraq. 100 of these interceptor missiles would be put on hair-trigger alert in Alaska to protect all 50 states. Under attack, radar detects and tracks incoming missiles. The interceptors are launched for the kill at supersonic speeds, like hitting a bullet with a bullet.
It's equivalent to a city bus hitting a wall at 1,200 miles per hour.
Last October, the Pentagon had its first success. Intercepting and killing a dummy warhead 140 miles in space.
Mark.
Are you convinced that such a system could work?
I think there's no question it can be made to work.
But a second test in January failed. Proof, say the critics, the system will never work.
Since the Reagan's idea of missile defense from 15, 20 years ago, we spent over $60 billion alone on research and development and gotten almost nowhere.
But there may be an even bigger risk. The Russians claim this system would violate the existing anti-ballistic missile treaty, which prohibits missile defense. Critics warn if Russia or even China feels threatened, it could actually ignite a whole new nuclear arms race.
This may lead to a chain reaction, and we'll end up with more nuclear weapons, which will be able to defeat our own system.
And the cost is soaring.
We may be spending $60 billion on a system that I think the American people are going to wonder whether we need.
To meet the potential threat and put the first interceptors on alert within 5 years, President Clinton must give the go-ahead before the November elections. But a recent Pentagon report warns that timetable is totally unrealistic. And critics argue it's a rush to judgment, more about election year politics than national defense.
This has been a political weapon for its entire history.
The Pentagon has another intercept test in July. Successful or not, Star Wars is definitely back as a possible defense, but also a potential threat to U.S.-Russian relations. Jim Miklashevsky, NBC News, the Pentagon.
I'll be back with more from Moscow later. Now to New York and Brian Williams. Brian?
Tom, thanks. And when we come back, how investigators are trying to shoot down a different missile theory. Once and for all, was a missile involved in the crash of TWA 800?
Keys are in it.
The Accord V6 Coupe from Honda. It's one powerful car.
Who's asking about Viagra? Someone you might expect, and also someone that maybe you wouldn't. In fact, you may be surprised at who's talking to their doctors about Viagra. So ask your doctor if a free trial of Viagra is right for you. Who's asking about Viagra? Maybe it should be you.
When you own one of these dogs, you think of them as loving, protective, spirited, adorable, anything but small. Because except for their physical size, there's nothing small about them. But face it, you care for them more like they were your children. Just look at what you feed them. Little champions from Pedigree, developed with vets, recommended by top breeders.
There's a new way to quit smoking. Take a good look. You may never see it again. Introducing Clear Nicoderm CQ. For relieving tough nicotine cravings 24 hours a day, Clear's every bit as effective as the original CQ. But it's a more private way to quit.
There's something different about you.
Yes, there is. Clear Nicoderm CQ. Want a clear shot at quitting? Well, here's your window of opportunity.
Next week, beautiful views, natural wonders, untouched wilderness, America's national parks. But how safe are they for your family? NBC Nightly News next week.
Dateline Monday. Unmarried, they moved in together because they were in love. But does shacking up make them criminals? A law says it does. Now wait until you see who filed the charges. Dateline Monday.
Legendary entertainer Bob Hope is in the hospital tonight in Rancho Mirage, California. His publicist says he was taken to Eisenhower Medical Center by ambulance and is in stable condition. Hope just celebrated his 97th birthday. Government investigators have confirmed tonight that the Army recently conducted some dramatic tests to disprove once and for all whether or not a missile attack was responsible for the explosion of TWA Flight 800 off the New York coast 4 years ago. Here's NBC's Robert Hager.
3 times, Army contractors fire Stinger missiles similar to this. As NTSB investigators assigned to the TWA 800 case watch below, charting and videotaping the missile's trail to document just how it looks from different altitudes and different distances. The tests in Florida at Eglin Air Force Base in conditions precisely matching the summer light off Long Island that evening 4 years ago when the TWA plane went down. Investigators do not stage the test because they seriously believe a missile caused the TWA crash. In fact, they're certain it was not a missile. But they do feel it's important for the record to match what they were able to see in the test with what some eyewitnesses believe they saw off Long Island. Eyewitnesses like Vietnam vet Fred Meyer, who was in a helicopter that night, recalls today.
I followed the streak of light, red-orange in color, moving from my left center to my further left.
Meyer says then he saw explosions similar to this.
In my opinion, what I saw was a missile.
But why are investigators sure it wasn't a missile? It's this reconstruction. No residue of any missile explosives, none. Instead, a pattern of twisted metal that shows the explosion that did bring the plane down originated here in the center fuel tank. And no continuous holes in a straight line through the wreckage, which would have had to have been left if a missile penetrated. So investigators believe what eyewitnesses saw was the trail of fire left in the sky by the falling plane itself. Former FBI official Joseph Cantamesa.
Nothing that was collected and reviewed supported or substantiated a missile theory.
What investigators really believe is that the fuel tank exploded because of an electrical short or some other mechanical problem. And nothing they observed in the new missile test has changed their minds. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Tonight, Governor George W. Bush has stepped into a controversial Texas death row case, and with less than 2 hours to go, he has ordered a 30-day reprieve, stopping the execution of a convicted rapist and killer. Now, a final DNA test for inmate Ricky McGinn to prove once and for all whether he really committed the rape and is therefore guilty of a capital crime in Texas. On Wall Street today, another rally, the second one of this shortened trading week. The Dow was up almost 130 points, the Nasdaq up nearly 182. When the competition started, 248 smart young people were all vying for the title America's Spelling Champion. Tonight, only one is left standing, 12-year-old George Abraham Thampy from Maryland Heights, Missouri, the winner of this year's National Spelling Bee. Here now, the winning word, démarche.
Démarche. D-E-M-A-R-C-H-E. Démarche.
You have won today.
Démarche from the French, meaning a move or maneuver or a diplomatic protest. The young winner, by the way, is homeschooled, as are the second and third place finishers this year. The pioneer of Latin music in this country, Tito Puente, died last night here in New York. He recently underwent heart surgery. His career spanned 6 decades, popularizing his own big band mambo sound in dozens of albums during the 60s. He won 5 Grammy Awards, paved the way for the current crop of extremely popular Latin musicians. Tito Puente, dead at the age of 77. We're back in a moment with more from Tom Brokaw in Moscow tonight.
Some nights, falling asleep is the most elusive thing on earth. No matter how hard you try, you can't capture it. Now, you can capture the sleep you need when you need it with Sonata. Like other sleep aids, you can take Sonata at bedtime. But Sonata is the first and only prescription sleep aid you can take later if you have at least 4 hours in bed before becoming active again. You'll fall asleep fast and still wake up naturally, ready to start your day. Until you know how you will react to Sonata, you should not drive or operate machinery. Common side effects are headache, dizziness, and drowsiness. Do not drink alcohol while taking Sonata. Patients who abuse prescription sleep aids may become dependent. Prescription sleep aids are most often taken for 7 to 10 days as needed. Your doctor will advise you about taking them longer. Ask your doctor about your sleep problem and how Sonata can help. Capture the sleep you need when you need it with Sonata.
Why so many days-in hotels worldwide? Because you might want to go to London someday. And we can't be sure.
England!
Which one? Days In. There you go.
Jolly good.
If you could imagine a bagless vacuum that outcleans all other bagless brands, it would look like this. Introducing the revolutionary Hoover Bagless. Because deep down, you want Hoover.
Love at first sight. What's that based on? Have you ever looked at someone and said, check her out, she looks loyal? Or, whoa, look at the morals on that guy. No, love at first sight is based on something else. Sight.
I see you, baby. Take it in there.
The 2000 Mitsubishi Eclipse, nicely equipped at 17.7. You'll even love what's on the inside.
Just ahead, first trapped in a hot truck, now some of Nashville's rescued puppies have died. The exclusive story tonight at 6. And a story of love, loss, and how it's never too late. See what happened to change this couple's golden years. Plus amazing photos of Middle Tennessee's latest tornadoes as they form at 6.
I've been coming to Russia for more than a quarter of a century, and I can't think of another major country that's gone through so much change, turmoil, and peril in such a short time. It wasn't so long ago that the rulers were men in cardboard suits with their fingers on the triggers of thousands of nuclear missiles and their heels on the backs of their people. It was a dark, dark world until first Gorbachev and then Yeltsin led the way to a new day. But for a country of this size and with this history, democracy and a free economy turned out to be monumental tasks beyond anyone's ability to master them yet. Is Vladimir Putin, Russia's new president, up to the assignment? For now, he remains a work in progress, and he'll get little help from Bill Clinton, who arrives this weekend as America's lame duck president. It is a new century, but for Russia, the road ahead remains long and difficult. That's Nightly News for this Thursday night from Moscow. I'm Tom Brokaw, and I'll see you tomorrow night from New York.
They captured the hearts of Middle Tennesseans after nearly dying in a sweltering truck. Now the lives of those purebred puppies could be at risk. The details in a Channel 4 exclusive right now on the scene at 6. And its predecessor fell to the wrecking ball amid controversy. Now the rebirth of the Jack is causing quite a bit of controversy. Tonight, why the issue of height is also carrying a lot of weight. Those stories and will wet weather ruin your weekend plans? Find out next on the scene at 6.
Channel 4, your #1 source for news, working for you.
with Dan Miller and Demetria Kaladimos News, Rudy Kaler Sports, and Bill Hall's weather.
You want some sort of guarantee this animal's going to live.
Some of the truck puppies bought in a mass adoption